Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, we will discuss about current scenarios of sustainable design in Indian context. So we will see in this lecture about some case studies and some efforts like how these sustainable practices can be brought into the everyday design of the houses. So here if you see how this has progressed, we are starting from here to understand how the objectives of sustainability has started actually evolving, okay, over the a few last in the few decades. So if you see in the 1950s, okay, it was miserably there was no such a particular discussion, okay, or any mention particularly about sustainability or the environmental concerns and things were going as it is, and it was kind of an accepted thing, okay, how the things are kind of okay, but it started coming into a play in the design and construction about the a climatology in the decade of 1960s. Okay, and after that it started with the a solar passive architecture in the modern constructions and the modern designs, and then came the bioclimatic design actually inputs. Okay, so they became actually the talk of the discussion in the almost in the decade of 1970s. Okay, when these bioclimatic actually factors in the design were actually started actually taking place. Then came low energy architecture, like how the energy requirements can be minimized, and then actually started the trend of a environmental sustainable architecture, which spoke of about improving on the environmental factors of the sustainability, which we know as in the recent times. And then lately in the in the decade of 1990s, then it started the discussion started happening about architecture for the sustainable development. So how the sustainable development goals, how the sustainable actually practices can be integrated into the architecture and design. So that was actually period. From there actually it started happening in India. So this is actually a reference I have taken from Ashok Bilal Architects. He is a famous architect based out of New Delhi, and he is a great thinker also. He has actually designed several interesting buildings which actually cater to this actually goal. So let's see some of these some examples which I have taken to discuss about in this lecture. So here if you see the a feature of a strategy of a planning a urban a terraces a roof gardens, okay, so greening the actually top surface of the building. Well, what could be the objective to make it green? What's the purpose? So the purpose is in the respect of the urban heat island effect. So the UHIE is a phenomena where in a concentrated places such as cities and bigger towns, okay, they have actually lakhs and lakhs of houses constructed, and as a whole actually these buildings, okay, they are actually made up of several heat absorbing materials such as bricks, stone, metals, tiles, and several other stuff. So these actually materials, they actually absorb a lot of heat. So how this heat can be actually reduced, because this heat actually creates a heat trap, and the entire actually surrounding of that city gets actually heated over the time. So this actually amount of this heat actually creates several types of problem, it starts absorbing that heat, it starts actually retaining some gases, and it starts retaining actually the particulate matter, and it gets accumulated over the time, and it creates a health related problems. It actually traps a lot of light in it, and we see that residual light reflection in the night sky of the cities. So that is because of actually this kind of effects which happen in the bigger settlement areas. So this actually effort of a terrace garden, okay, it is conceptualized and it is proven also with the help of several executed designs. This works in reducing the overall actually a metal footprint of these a construction based materials, and it reduces the overall actually heat in that actually area. and it minimizes actually energy consumption also in the building. So this is one of the strategies which works very efficiently to reduce actually the heat impact. So here in this one we will talk about like how to actually improve on the like a social interaction part. Okay, so social sustainability is one of the major aspects of like the sustainability. So how this sustainability can be actually integrated with the architectural system, with the built environments, with the built like spaces. So with the help of like a intentional designs which improve actually, or which promote actually social interactions. Okay, this can be achieved. So you can see some sketches over here in the lower right side. Okay, so this green actually sketched area. Okay, it's actually pedestrian movement, pedestrian path given within a society. So one like the inhabitants of this actually society will be taking these paths, and they will be moving around these buildings. Okay, in a way like integrating them, and bringing them closer to the like other people of the society. Okay, so this is one of the like direct methods of actually promoting like a social interaction in any given society. The next one you can see like a having like a community buildings. So the buildings which are dedicated for the like a community uses, such as like a convention halls, such as like a libraries, reading rooms, such as like a common playing areas, such as common like a recreational areas, such as like a common like areas where one can actually sit together and discuss. They can discuss about like the administration of that society, they can discuss about the interaction, and they can meet to celebrate like social functions and events and events okay together. So these buildings also in turn actually promote. So there should be a provision to have actually such community spaces, community buildings in and around the societies. The third one talks about the parking areas. So the parking areas also actually provide an opportunity for like a social interaction. So the parking in groups also is taken as a like a improvement for the like a social interaction area. But though they are kept at the outer like a periphery of the society, in order to actually keep the vehicles away from the actually inner areas where kids, where elderly, where all of the inhabitants can freely actually enjoy and walk. So this is the reason actually these parkings are kept on the side, on the periphery of the actually society. Okay, so that one does not have any tension. Like for example, if a kid is playing in this like a greener areas, so the mother is not bothered that there may be a vehicle which can actually create some disturbance for my child. So such kind of actually tension free actually spaces are very necessary. So how design can help over here? By actually using like a elevated spaces, by using like a maybe restricted areas, so that there is no actually access available for the movement, for the cars to come inside or the vehicles to come inside. So this can be actually forced or an intentional actually strategy adopted to improve actually the social interaction in any given society. And then the last one, it talks about like the creating like the unit layout. So if we create like a such layout, so these layouts can be actually replicated and can be actually can be implemented at several places to emulate actually this concept. So these are actually softer strategies adopted for actually improving social interaction in the given society. In this slide you can see like this is a satellite map of a city of Chandigarh in India. So this Chandigarh actually is very known for like its grid layout, okay, of the different sectors, and orthogonal planning, and vehicular movement, and even with all of these like a massive scale like buildings which Lee Corbusier actually designed in the 1950s and 60s at that time. So he actually incorporated like a greener like a strips which were actually crisscrossing different sectors. So these actually greener actually areas, they actually start from like one end of the one sector, and they move from the sectors within, and they crisscross actually entire the breadth of the actually Chandigarh actually city. So it was like being visualized over here. Like this you can see is one of the major like arterial road. So this was actually proposed to have actually this is a main actually culvert to cross actually Chandigarh from like one side of the Chandigarh to the other side. So it was designed, actually it was conceptualized from like this Chandigarh urban lab actually. So they actually proposed to have a breathing, actually a green corridor where not just the vehicle will pass, the even the pedestrian movement, even the cyclist movement, and even there will be like a huge presence of like a greener elements such as trees, bushes and plants, to minimize actually the effects or the side effects caused by the actually traffic, the fast moving traffic. So this is an integration of actually the breathing spaces with the like highly functional like requirements. So by actually strategizing like in such a way, even like entities such as like highways and these like connecting roads can be also designed in such a way that they have actually lesser emissions and lesser impact on the surrounding areas and the residential areas which are right present in the next actually sectors. So by providing actually dense like vegetation and trees and bushes, one can minimize on the noise pollution, one can minimize on the like the air pollution. So these things can be taken care of. And here some more details are given over there, the how is the visualization of this actually road was actually taken care of. So the road was actually given the space in the like lower side of the road, so the under the ground, and then the pedestrian and other recreational areas and the greener areas were planted on the ground surface. In this actually illustration, how we can see like how different types of actually the massing and the arrangement of the activities in any given like a structure and building can be designed in such a way to promote actually social harmony and interaction. So the first one you can see, this one is like a format of like a panorama. So this one gives a huge like a volume of like a exposure to the outside. So for example, if there is a greener area or the forest area or some like institutional space or some recreational space or even a market space, so the neighboring buildings can adopt actually such panoramatic actually views to have to maximize the view outside. So viewing is one of the actually traits of like a human comfort. So how this can actually take advantage of this panorama strategy, so this is quite evident from this sketch over here. The second one talks about patio and paint house actually creations. So such actually building typologies, they adopt quite a wide actually open spaces. They involve actually greener space also. They include actually some like a vegetation also, creating a, like a nice ambience and creating a, like a nice atmosphere within the premises of that building. So this is also one of the very good strategies for like having a like a ecological actually, you know, a building which corresponds to the surrounding, the building which corresponds to the ecology. The third one talks about leaving like a 70% of the space empty for like a greener and open areas. Well, this is a strategy which gives a lot of emphasis for like a creating like a open spaces, creating like a empty spaces, you know, leaving spaces empty and reserved for like a grass and trees and bushes and plants, so that there is ample space left for actually receiving sun, receiving rain, you know, receiving actually the natural elements in like a plenty. So this is one of the strategies which supports like a lot of exposure, a lot of direct integration of nature to the site. The next one talks about having like terraces. So on terraces, like in between terraces also, like multiple like interactive terraces. So terraces are also one of the like refuse areas which promote interaction and fluidity in any given space. So we can use these terraces also for having like some small like activities like cafes, sitting areas, you know, reading areas and such activities planned in this one. In turn, by helping actually the society to have like a, you know, enhanced interaction. The next one talks about live and work. So this is actually mixed use building we discussed earlier. So how the same building can have actually the variety of usages, because generally we live at one place and work at some other place. So this in turn actually induces the demand for like traffic, because I need to go from the place of living to the place of working. So why not to promote actually such a practice where these two activities can be kept as close as possible, maybe even in the same building, if not that far. And if even if it is like at a distance, why can't be this be at in a distance of like a periphery of like maybe a cyclist movement or maybe a pedestrian's movement? So such live and work actually in the vicinity will actually reduce direct emissions from the like a traffic, and it will actually give like a ample time for the actually the person to have it with their family or at the in the office, by instead of like wasting that in the traffic. The last one actually talks about like a interconnected, like a yin yang actually housing technique. So in this one actually activities are actually interconnected, the housing units are interconnected, and they are kind of overflowing between from one to another. So this actually links the structure in a way, in a more deeper way. This actually forcefully actually encourages the interaction in the society. So this with this we saw actually some of the strategies with which one can actually induce interaction in the society. Let's see some of the more typologies over here on a like a major scale, at the scale of a neighborhood, like how this kind of like a social interactions can be enhanced, can be actually generated, can be created, can be given in any actually city sectors or city areas. So the first one you can see in the high-rise buildings. So in the high-rise buildings, a number of like a floors can be reserved for like a common interaction, like a refuse areas for like a, those are refuse areas for like a safety and such purposes. But these like there could be like a several like there could be some dedicated spaces and floors reserved for like a social interaction and common interaction. So by in turn promoting like a social interaction. The next one talks about a perimeter block housing. So in this one, the movement is restricted on the perimeter, okay, so that the vehicles cannot come inside the actually living areas, in turn by promoting like a greener actually spaces in the heart of the actually neighborhood. The next one talks about the courtyard housing planning. So the courtyards are like a very integral to the vernacular architecture of most parts of the like Indian states, Indian like a region. So this kind of actually planning also helps in receiving actually natural elements in like a plenty, as well as creating an atmosphere of like a homely activity in the on the site itself. Okay, so this kind of actually typology can be utilized for like a creating housings in the like recent times. The next one talks about like a cluster housing. So a group of like houses can be kept together, okay, and these services can be combined in one place, for example like parking and other amenities. So in turn actually leaving a plenty of space which can be a common actually area for them for their leisure activities, such as like a playing, sitting, and these kind of like activities. So the children also can get like open spaces, elderly can get like a wider spaces for like a walking and movement and playing, etc. Then comes like a row housing. So of course this is also one of the more most successful like schemes, most successful like strategies followed across the world to have like a number of like row housings. So in this also like a number of like activities, number of amenities and facilities are shared among the like inhabitants, and the maximum like open areas can be combined and utilized for like a common activities. Some examples we can see from like a different like a vernacular like architectural practices from like a different regions of India. As you can see on the left side, this picture is from Ahmedabad. Okay, this is from the like residential areas where the houses actually they project a little bit on the in the like a walking aisle side, in the walking like a gully side, and they become actually sunset for the like a people to sit on the lower levels, because Ahmedabad is falls under like a very hot actually regions. So some months are relatively very hot. So at that times these actually architectural features they become very useful for actually creating like a habitable actually spaces on the lower floors. In the second picture you can see the same kind of actually technique is used in this building. Okay, so this kind of actually philosophies can be even transformed into like a new construction like a practices and things which are happening at different places. So here we have actually one thought by architect like Yatin Pandya. So he talks about like sustainability is a phenomena. It is a concept that stems from and culminates in the way of life. It is about contextual adjustment for the maximum gain with the least disturbance or imbalance. So again, we are seeing those the same like keywords which are very much inherited, which are very much integrated with this concept of sustainability, like a contextual requirements. So the design should fit into the given context, okay, and it creates actually the least disturbance or the least imbalance to the overall like the ecological actually that footprint over here. So these are the actually thoughts given by like a very famous like architect Yatin Pandya, and many of his designs, they actually follow like such practices and very earthen actually designs. So a few examples we will see here. On the left side, you can see in this picture, this is a jali or the stone jali or the fenestrations actually are created. So of course they are a beautiful piece of like aesthetic and art. At the same time, they work as a like a sunscreen. They work as a like a filtering the sunlight for the like a in the like a desired like a quantum. So the inside like inner spaces, they receive sunlight but in a restricted manner, and in turn they create actually a buffer area also from outside to the inside. And the same kind of a philosophy is used even in the recent times in the modern buildings, as you can see on the right side. So such fins, they work as creating buffer. So the interior habitable spaces are not actually situated, not placed right at the surface of the building, though they are kept at a distance, and that distance actually becomes that buffer zone by using using it as a corridor. Some more examples are here in this actually slide. So you can see some of these designs very famous from like a different cities of India. Okay, so they take care of actually the vernacular actually features of those regions. For example, the central top picture you can see, this is from like a Jawahar Kala Bhavan in Jaipur. So the architect of this, the late Charles Correa, he took inspiration from the Baulis of Rajasthan, the water bodies of Rajasthan, which are man-made for like a several centuries, okay, in stone, and they actually used to store the groundwater for the like a summer months. Okay, so this is stepped actually fashion he has used for creating like an interactive actually space in that actually premise. And some other buildings you can see, they are utilizing like a natural local materials, okay, such as like stone, okay, which is crisscrossed by like the grass and other like vegetation. Okay, there are like pergolas used to create like buffer spaces from the outside to the inside, so that there is a like a buffer zone between the interior and the exterior, okay, creating like a comfortable situation, a comfortable actually temperate actually condition in the interiors. Okay, and there are several other actually adoptions also in terms of like creating like a sunscreen, okay, by using like a materials such as like a concrete, such as like even like stone, such as like a steel, even like a clothing, so such are the actually innovative actually adaptations in the recent times which have happened in India. So one beautiful actually project which I would like to mention over here. So this is actually a project by architect like Christopher Charles Benninger. Okay, so this is an actually office building which follows actually traditional architectural systems using the modern technology. So it's a beautiful actually amalgamation of vernacular as well as modernity. So in this one, these office buildings are created over here by utilizing actually the subsurface and below the ground surface also. So he has actually, you can see in this illustration, he has actually utilized some vernacular and cultural features also, such as this deep stump, and he has utilized like a water bodies to create like a well, this actually building is located in Pune, in the city of Pune. So this water body actually creates this microclimate. This gives actually, with the help of the evaporation, water content in the air, in turn cooling that air. So sometimes the people can sit outside in the grass. They come out in the evenings and they can enjoy the view. So this is the actually philosophy actually applied in this particular actually project. Okay, so some details of this structure we can see over here. So this is like a Suzlon One Earth building situated in like a Pune, and this is one of the Griha 5-star rated actually projects, which is one of the role models of the like a corporate actually. So some features like in the sustainable like site planning, he has actually used dust screens to provide prevent the dust to spread to the outside like in the vicinity. So while construction only, they utilize several actually means and methods to prevent on the disturbance in the vicinity in the locality. They actually took care of the soil erosion. They utilized actually the utility corridors to actually take up heavy vehicles and the utensils and equipment, etc., in order to minimize the impact to the local like a people. The next point talks about reduction in water consumption. Okay, in comparison to the like a Griha benchmark, they have actually achieved like a 65% reduction in the building water consumption by using a low flow fixtures, and 55% water recycled and reused within the complex. Okay, they have actually achieved a 50% reduction in landscape water consumption by planting native like a vegetation species of trees and shrubs, and they have utilized the efficient irrigation system also to minimize the water consumption. So it's highly recommended because some parts of the like India, majorly into like Maharashtra and Rajasthan and Telangana and Andhra Pradesh and even like Tamil Nadu, so these states are falling into like a scarcity of water in the recent times. Next strategy, you can see they have utilized, the designers have utilized the passive architectural designs and strategic systems. So by orienting the facades of the buildings to the like north, south and northeast and southeast, they have actually minimized the heat load on the building, and 100% shading by external louvers on the first and second floor. So they have utilized actually these louvers, which are actually traditional features in our vernacular architecture, which we just saw in the previous slide of the like a Gujarat. They utilized partly self-shading actually blocks. Okay, so that the one block can shed can become a shade to the next one, and that is why minimizing actually heat load. The next feature what they utilize is the small terraces created in all blocks to promote interaction and external environment. So that is where actually this social interaction and overall like a social sense of like a sustainability comes into picture. So involving and promoting actually the social interaction among the inhabitants. The next strategy what they utilize is the reduction in the energy consumption. So compared with the Griha benchmark, okay, they have actually achieved like a quite a much like a efficiency in terms of like a equipment in the lighting and running the like their like other like a sensor kind of requirement. So these actually equipments, they have been like taken care of, and they have taken care of like adequate daylighting to provide like and control the like a glare, so that there is no like a excess of like a sunlight in the inner areas. And they have actually achieved thermal comfort also by pre-cooling the fresh air. They have used like a heat recovery system and heat exchanger systems to minimize the heat losses, to minimize the energy losses. They have used like high efficiency mechanical systems to actually reduce the energy consumption, and the renewable energy like a technology, they have installed like a solar generation actually plant of 13.44 kilowatt on site itself, and they are meeting their actually energy requirements. They have even installed like 18 windmills of 4.75 actually kilowatt each. So they are actually generating 2,50,000 units of electricity annually. Further, they have used a strategy of like a low energy and green materials. So 37% of reduction in quality in the quantity of structural concrete by using post-tension slabs they have utilized, and 50% of reduction they have achieved in quantity of structural steel by using post-tension slabs, and they have used like Ciporex fly ash blocks for better insulation. So these AAC blocks are coming aerated concrete actually cement. So these blocks are actually in the trend these days. They work as a highly insulating actually construction material compared to the traditional actually burnt bricks. So on the energy saving part, if you see, they have become kind of self-sufficient. So they have actually reduced water consumption. They have reduced actually waste generation. They have reduced actually noise level. So in an overall sense, it is one of the most successful actually designs you can see in this picture, which promotes like a social integration which promotes actually environmental protection, which promotes actually overall like a ambience of this place, which preserves the culture also. So it is one of the actually wholesome designs which I thought of like bringing to you. Thank you everyone.